Namaskar. On behalf of Odisha Positive Delhi NCR Group, I welcome you all to the second part of the webinar by young Odias on the theme Representation of Odisha in the World. We had an amazing series of presentation by young Odias who did a detailed research on some places of Odisha and brought out a vibrant Odisha to all of us in their presentations in the last session, which happened on 3rd October, last Sunday. Today we'll have 5 more speakers presenting their search. So moving on to introduce our first presenter. Our first presenter is Pranshi Mohanta from Ghaziabad. She is studying in class 10 in Sun Valley International School. Pranshi keeps interest in art, music, photography and cricket. She is also running a website, Mythogyan, for mythological writing and illustrations. So over to you, Pranshi.
Jai Jagannath, Namaskar. Thank you Odisha Positive for giving this opportunity to research more about Odisha. Now I will be briefly presenting about some facts about Puri and Konark. So let me now just present my screen.
Puri is a coastal city in the state of Odisha. It is the district headquarters of Puri district and is situated on the Bay of Bengal. It is also known as Sri Jagannath Dham. It is one of the original Char Dham pilgrimage sites for Hindus. Puri is known by several names since the ancient times and was locally known as Sri Kshetra. Puri and the Jagannath temple were invaded 18 times by Muslim rulers from the 7th century AD till the early 9th century with the objective of looting the treasures of the temple. Odisha, including Puri and its temple, were part of British India from 1803 till India attained independence in August 1947. Even though princely states do not exist in India today, the heirs of the house of Gajapati still perform the ritual duties of the temple. The temple town has many Hindu religious mathas or monasteries. The Jagannath temple is an important Hindu temple dedicated to Lord Jagannath, a form of Sri Krishna in Puri. The temple is sacred to all Hindus and especially in those of the Vaishnava traditions. Jagannath, Balabhadra and Subhadra are a trio of deities worshipped at the temple. The inner sanctum of the temple contains statues of these 3 gods carved from the sacred neem logs known as Daru, sitting on the Bijwal platform or Ratna Bedi, along with the statues of Sudarshan Chakra, Madan Mohan, Sri Devi and Vishwadharti. The deities are adorned with different clothing and jewels according to the season. Worship of these deities predates the building of the temple and may have originated in an ancient tribal shrine. Mahaprasad is the term applied to the 56 food items offered to Lord Jagannath in the holy temple of Puri. The bhog offered to him and later to Ma Bimala in the grand temple and remains of that Nivedana is known as Mahaprasad. Mahaprasad is also widely named as the famous Chhappan Bhog. The temple's kitchen is the largest in the world. Tradition holds that all Mahaprasad cooking in the temple kitchens is supervised by the goddess Mahalakshmi, the empress of Sri Mandir herself, and that if the food prepared has any fault in it, a shadow dog appears near the temple kitchen, a sign of her displeasure. If the shadow dog is seen, the food is promptly buried and a new batch cooked. All 56 varieties of food produced are vegetarian and prepared without onions, garlic or chilies as prescribed by Hindu religious texts. Cooking is done only in earthen pots using water drawn from 2 special wells near the kitchen called Ganga and Yamuna. The most awaited offering is Abhada, offered after midday. After being offered to Jagannath and the other deities, the food is sold at Anand Bazar, an open market near the temple. Let me now tell you about some interesting facts about the Jagannath temple. It is a ritual from the past 1800 years that a priest climbs atop the temple and changes the flag every day. The flag atop the temple has been observed to flap in the opposite direction of the breeze. Irrespective of where you stand in Puri, it seems to you that the Sudarshan Chakra on the top of the temple is always facing you. No birds fly above the Jagannath temple in Puri. The shadow of the main dome of Jagannath temple is not visible whatever be the time of the day. The food cooked inside the temple every day will not go waste. After entering the temple from Singhadwar's entrance, you cannot hear any sound produced by the ocean, but when you exit, it can be clearly heard. The Puri temple is famous for its annual Rath Yatra or chariot festival, in which the three principal deities are pulled on huge and elaborately decorated temple cars. Unlike the stone and metal icons found in most Hindu temples, the image of Jagannath is made of wood and is ceremoniously replaced every 12 or 19 years by an exact replica. During the Jagannath Rath Yatra, the triads are usually worshipped in the sanctum of the temple at Puri. But once during the month of Asadha, usually falling in the month of June or July, they are brought out onto the Badar Danda and travel 3 km to the Sri Gundicha temple in huge chariots, allowing the public to have darshan. Puri Beach or the Golden Beach is a beach in the city of Puri. It is on the shore of the Bay of Bengal. It is known for being a tourist attraction and a Hindu sacred place. The beach hosts sand art displays including work by international award-winning local sand artist Sri Sudarshan Patnaik. The Golden Beach at Puri was awarded the prestigious Blue Flag tag on October 11, 2020 by the Foundation for Environment Education, Denmark. Cultural activities including the annual religious festivals in Puri are the Puri Beach Festival and the Sri Khetra Utsav. The cultural programs include unique sand art, display of local and traditional handicrafts, and food festival. Odissi dance is the cultural heritage of Puri. This dance form originated in Puri from the dances performed by Devadasis or Maharis attached to the Jagannath temple who performed dances in the Nata Mandapa of the temple to please the deities. Puri offers diverse cuisines to all kinds of travelers: vegetarian, non-vegetarian, seafood lovers, local food tryouts, and still some more. Some of the most delicious food in Puri are khichdi, malpua, dalma, abhada, chhena podo, and khoja. Konark is a town in the Puri district. It is the site of the 13th century Sun temple built in black granite during the reign of Narasimha Deva I. This temple is a World Heritage Site. The temple is now mostly in ruins and a collection of its sculptures is housed in the Sun Temple Museum, which is run by the Archaeological Survey of India. The name Konark is derived from the Sanskrit word kona meaning angle and word arka meaning sun, in reference to the temple which was dedicated to the sun god Surya. Dedicated to the Hindu sun god Surya, what remains of the temple complex has the appearance of a 100-foot high chariot with immense wheels and horses, all carved from stone. Much of the temple is now in ruins, in particular the large Shikhara tower over the sanctuary. Also called the Surya Devalya, it is a classic illustration of the Odisha style of architecture or Kalinga architecture. Konark Sun temple is depicted on the reverse side of the Indian currency note of 10 rupees to signify its importance to Indian cultural heritage. Some interesting facts about the Sun temple are: the 12 stone carved wheels of the Konark Sun temple represent the 12 months of a year. These wheels that are found at the base of the temple also show time. The spokes of the wheel form the shape of a sundial. The exact time of the day can be calculated seeing the shadow cast by the wheels. Each wheel here has 8 spokes, each representing a prahar, which is a 3-hour period, adding up to 24 hours, which is a day. Like the temples of Khajuraho, the Sun Temple at Konark also has an abundance of sculptures that depict Kama, Artha, Dharma and Moksha, that are the 4 major pursuits of life. According to history, the king Langula Narasimha Deva I of the Eastern Ganga dynasty decided to build a massive temple at Konark. The temple was to be in the shape of the sun god Surya riding in his chariot. 1200 craftsmen were recruited to construct the temple, led by one named Bishu Maharana, and the project was to take 12 years. As the end of the 12 years approached, Dharmapada, the son of Bishu Maharana, at the age of 12, went to visit his father. Upon arrival, he found his father distressed as the crown on the Sun Temple's top had yet to be completed, and the king had threatened to execute all 1200 craftsmen if they did not finish it by morning. Although the task seemed impossible, Dharmapada decided to single-handedly complete it. A debate then took place among the craftsmen, fearing for their own lives if it became known that a child had completed the work instead of them. They demanded that Dharmapada be killed. At last, to settle this debate, Dharmapada jumped from the crown he had completed, killing himself and ensuring the safety of the craftsmen. Konark is also home to an annual dance festival called Konark Dance Festival, devoted to classical Indian dance forms including the traditional classical dance of Odisha, Odissi. It is a 5-day dance festival held every year in the month of December in the backdrop of the Sun Temple in Konark. It is one of the biggest dance festivals held in Odisha. Since 1986, this festival has been organized in the state jointly by Odisha Tourism and Odissi Research Centre to promote the diverse Indian dance heritage as well as the popularity of Konark Temple and Odisha as a tourist destination. Along with this, during the same period, International Sand Art Festival also takes place. Not just the traditional sand sculptures, you may also expect sand, stone, bronze or wood created by skillful sand artists. The International Sand Artist Festival celebrates the spectacular displays of sand artists from India and from many other countries. As many as 30 Indian and 10 foreign artists participate in this competition-turned festival.
Thank you, Pranshi. That was really amazing. I am a Puriya, so seeing that abhada and other things, I was really tempted. And the Mangal Arati in the beginning and the kind of videos you had shown in your movie file, the sound of the car festival, it was all amazing. And thank you. There were some surprising elements for me, definitely for others as well. And we could see some of the videos which you made as a surprise element. Pranshi is my daughter, but some things I couldn't know, like how she grabbed some videos and photographs. But it was a real good surprise. Thank you for this amazing presentation. Our second speaker is Ronak Kumar Samal. He's a student of class 12 from Dwarka. He keeps interest in cricket and e-sports. He has won a lot of medals like inter-school debate silver medal. He's a state level cricket winner and has won man of the match. He's an so quite a talented boy, Ronak. We are looking forward to your wonderful presentation.
Good evening, one and all present here. My name is Ronak and I study in class 12. And I feel really grateful and pleasurable for being invited to present my presentation on this webinar. So I'll be basically telling you all about the history of the Paradip port. Basically its journey from being just a mangrove forest to a major port in India. So now I'll be sharing my presentation. Is it visible, ma'am?
can start.
Okay, thank you. The port of Paradip, mangrove forest to a major port. Its history.
आप
The port
starting
of
से
Paradip,
करिए
one of the major ports.
आपका presentation.
मैम
ठीक
मैं
है, let's
starting
start.
से ही किया.
अच्छा मुझे नहीं दिख रहा था बच्चा. ठीक है, आप कर लो अपने हिसाब से. हाँ. Yeah, you can start once more. I mean the presentation part only.
Ma'am, now is it visible from the beginning only?
Yes, you can start.
The port of Paradip, mangrove forest to a major port. The history behind it. The port of Paradip, one of the major ports of India, was mainly constructed on the land of Sandakuda, Bhitargarh, and Vijaychandrapur of Jagatsinghpur district, which was a part of Cuttack district during the period of the inception of the port. It was a dense mangrove forest with full of flora and fauna. Prior to the 6th decade of the 20th century, there were no active human activities except a few people of the nearby villages who used to visit the area for collection of wood, hunting of wild animals, and catching of fish. The area is blessed by nature, being surrounded by the Bay of Bengal, River Mahanadi, Atharbanki Creek, and a number of small creeks falling across the land. Monk Sri Parashar. The place had a glorious history stretched from Puranas, British rule in India. The area is named after Sri Parashar, the celebrated monk of India. Monk Parashar had divine direction to meditate for years together to inculcate knowledge and enlightenment. He was in search for a dense forest with natural beauty, away from the human activities and disturbances. After a great search, selected the confluence point of the river Mahanadi as the area was blessed with God-gifted beauty and solitude. He engaged himself in meditation for many years, and by the influence of such sacred activities, the entire area was filled with divinity. After the return of the monk Parashar, the area was named as Paradip, that is, the sacred island. Paradip in the medieval age. During the medieval period, the area was the center of Buddhist activities. Pushpagiri University of Buddhism, monuments of Lalitgiri, Udayagiri, and Ratnagiri, at a distance of about 70 kilometers from Paradip, were visited by many foreign tourists. Nearby ports like Shalitalo, Hariyarpur played an important role for the voyage of such tourists. From the 5th to the 9th century, such area was actively used for the alma mater activities of Mahayanic Tantra and yoga based on principles of Buddhism. The Sandha dynasty. With the decline of Buddhism in Odisha, the area could not play a significant role for about 8 centuries. During the 17th century, Sandha dynasty started ruling the area and emerged as a mighty sea power. Sandha, the title, was awarded by the Raja of Dubaigud to Malik Samant in the year 1645 AD, as the latter, by his unwanted courage and physical powers, took a frantic bull by the horns and brought an end to it. Kings of Sindh dynasty ruled the area for about 230 years. Vidyadhar Sindh was the last king of Sindha dynasty at Kujanga. In the year 1876, Burdwan Maharaja took the possession of Kujang, and the administration of the area was taken over by the Anchal Adhikari, government of Odisha, in the year 1952. The beginning stage of being recognized as a port. Maritime activities around Paradip were recorded in history during the period 1600 to 1800 AD. The port of Hariyarpur rose to eminence as an effective port and boat building center. Later, Bathigarh and Hukitola were ports of operations used by French, Portuguese, and English traders. Bathigarh, popularly known as the Falls Point Lighthouse, is about 1.5 century old. Such port was used mainly for export of rice and spices. The historical lighthouse near the port have been serving mariners of East Coast by disseminating marine signals for safe voyage. Hukitola was a prominent port for small vessels and anchorage point for big vessels. The warehouse constructed 100 years ago is now and present in dilapidated condition. Battigarh and Hukitola. Both Battigarh and Hukitola were abandoned for trade for political and economic reasons. The historical lighthouse at Battigarh, also known as the False Point Lighthouse, is still in operation, flashing during night, breaking the solitude of the Mahanadi estuary and the Bay of Bengal. The formation of the Port Committee. In 1948, the Port Committee was formed by the Government of India, felt the necessity of a port between Visakhapatnam and Calcutta. After the independence, the port of Dhaka was separated from the maritime map of India, and to compensate such loss, it was required for another port on the east coast. The construction of the Paradip port. French mission suggested the construction of the port at the mouth of Mahanadi River. As per the suggestion, the port facility should be located within the estuary with an approach channel dredged through the bar and protected by breakwaters. Study was also conducted by Indian Navy in the year 1951 for the movement of vessels from sea to Paradip port, and observed that there was no hindrance whatsoever to shipping the port to Paradip. Paradip being finally declared a port. In 1958, the Intermediate Port Development Committee of Government of India accepted the report of Mr. Shas, and Paradip was declared as a minor port. Port of Paradip started as a fair weather anchorage port for export of iron ore through lighters to take iron ore to the ship at the anchorage. Location. Paradip Port is situated 210 nautical miles south of Calcutta and 260 nautical miles north of Visakhapatnam at latitude 20 degree 15 hours 55 minutes and 44 seconds north and longitude 86 degrees 40 hours 34 minutes and 52 seconds east. It is strategically situated so as to serve a vast hinterland spreading over the states of Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and West Bengal. Cargo profile. Initially, the port was started as a monocommodity port to handle iron ore only. After 9 years, Paradip Port diversified its cargo profile by constructing new facilities. In the year 1975, the first general cargo berth, known as the EQ-1, was commissioned for handling of care foods, sugar, wheat, and other general cargoes. The current scenario. At present, the port is equipped with 8 general cargo berths, 2 mechanized coal handling berths, 1 mechanized iron ore handling berth, 1 oil berth, 1 single point mooring, 1 ro-ro jetty, apart from the 2 captive berths for PPL and IFCO, to serve the maritime industry by handling dry bulk, break bulk, liquid bulk, project and over-dimensional cargoes as well as containers. Now, the port is capable of handling almost all types of cargoes like iron ore, thermal coal, cooking coal, chrome ore, manganese ore, charged chrome, ferrochrome, ferromanganese, limestone, hard coke, ingots and molds, billets, finished steel, scrap, fertilizers, clinkers, gypsum, rigid cargo, containers, clean cargo, POL, and crude oil. Thank you for being in such an awesome and patient audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronak. It was so informative, so informative. You are not just a badminton player or a cricket player. You really played it well in terms of capturing information, data collection and doing a research. I think you could do a good career in that because getting data, so much of information and doing such a good research, you really played it well. Thank you for this informative presentation you made. Our next speaker is Suhani Mahapatra from Ghaziabad. She is a student of class 10 from Delhi Public School, Indirapuram. She is a trained Odissi dancer. As you could see in Pranshi's presentation, Suhani was a dancer in the group. She was in the center. So I have seen her dancing pretty well. She has performed in many stages. She also keeps interest in singing and dramatics. So over to you, Suhani.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Suhani Mahapatra, and being in Odia is something I take pride in, and I always will. And today, with this wonderful opportunity, I will be presenting on 3 major tourist hubs of Odisha. And once again, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, with which I have learned so much more about my motherland. I'll start the presentation now.
Keonjhar. Is a major mineral producing district with iron, manganese, chromate, quartzite, bauxite, gold, pyrophilate, and limestone as the major minerals. The origin of the name is not very certain. The local pronounced the name as Keonjhar. In medieval Sanskrit inscriptions, the name Keonjhar is found. The name has been Sanskritized to Keonjhar by the ex-Darbar government. The name Keonjhar is derived from Kendu, meaning East Indian ebony, which is abundant in the district, and Jhara, meaning water spring. There are approximately 55 tribal communities in the district. The largest group is the Hos. The other major tribes are the Bhuiya, Gond, Baturi, Sonti, Santal, Juang, Shabar, and Bunij. These 9 tribes constituted almost 95% of the total tribal population of the district. Folk dances. The district has a large section of tribal communities, so there are many folk dances such as Ho, Juang, Changu dances, which are popular and recognized by the district administration. A famous personality from Keonjhar is Tulsi Munda. Tulsi Munda was born on 15 July 1947 in Keonjhar in the state of Odisha. She's an Indian activist, educator, politician, and social worker. She is popularly known as Tulsi Appa, literally meaning Sister Tulsi in Oriya. She was awarded the Padma Shri in 2001 by the Government of India for her contribution to spreading literacy among the impoverished Adivasi people of Odisha. Sundargarh, one of the many prides of Odisha, is also known as the city of waterfalls, since it has so many waterfalls. A story related to one of its very famous waterfalls, the Khandadar waterfalls, goes as follows. One of the popular tribes that live close to this popular waterfall, the Pauri Bhuiya tribes, state that once the Sundargarh branch of their community was enchanted by Kankala Devi, a goddess. The covetous goddess was known to consume even the soil of the area. With helplessness taking over the tribe, they placed her on a rock, which to everyone's surprise the goddess consumed, and that resulted in the forming of a deep hole where the Khandada streamed out. With that incident, the tribe got water. Later, a couple from the community had to visit their relatives who lived in the eastern part of the district. It so happened that the relatives that the couple had to meet were not around, but interestingly, a pile was kept outside their home. When the couple looked inside the pile, they witnessed Khanda Kumari, goddess and protector of prosperity of the area, and brought her back with them. All of this resulted in the goddess's strength being bestowed upon the couple. Sundargarh also occupies a prominent position in the mineral map of Odisha and is rich in iron, limestone, manganese, dolomite, and fire clay. Rourkela. Rourkela is the largest city in the entire district of Sundargarh. Rourkela is the third largest city of Odisha and is categorized as a Tier 2 city. The origin of the name Rourkela comes from the local language of Sadri, in which Raur means your and Kela, which coming from the word Kila, means village. It translates to your village. A famous educational institute in Rourkela is NIT Rourkela. The steel plant for which Rourkela is so extensively known is set up with a German collaboration known as Rourkela Steel Plant of Steel Authority of India Limited, SAIL. The city is also popularly known as Ispat Nagar and the Steel City of Odisha. Following India's independence, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, wanted to make India an industrialized state in the Soviet model of social development, giving wings to his dream. Sir Biju Patnaik convinced Pandit Nehru to consider the location of Rourkela for setting up a steel plant. The mineral-rich zone of Rourkela, intersected by the rivers Brahmani, Koil, and Sankha from two sides was aptly chosen for the same. The major crops are rice, pulses, oilseeds, jute, cotton, and turmeric. The other parts, like tea, cotton, groundnut, and rubber, are of great economic importance. Odisha actually contributes 1/10 of the total rice production in the country. Some famous people from Rourkela are Bibu Mohapatra, who is an NY-based costume designer, fashion designer. He has even designed clothes for people like Michelle Obama. Another famous personality is Meera Nair, who is a film actress, film director, film producer. Rourkela is also known for a very historic event of the composition and writing of the epic saga Mahabharata. It was the time of the Dwapar Yuga. The rishi or sage Vyasa composed an epic poem which he called the Mahabharata. He was the son of Satyavati and Rishi Parashar, and since he was of dark complexion and was born in an island, he was called Krishna Dvipayan Vyasa. Vyasa composed the poem but wasn't able to write it as his thoughts ran faster than his pen. So, he was looking for a scribe who could write it all at the same pace with which he recited them. But he could find none. He invoked Lord Brahma. Brahma appeared before him and asked him what he wanted. Vyasa told him about his issue. Brahma suggested him to ask Ganesha, the elephant-headed god. Vyasa then invoked Ganesha. Ganesha did agree to write it for him, but he put a condition and said, "My pen must never stop. If you ever hesitate while writing your poem and my pen stops, it will not start again and I will leave right away." Vyasa thought for a while and said, "I agree, but I too have a condition that you cannot write a single word or verse without understanding it." Ganesha thought to himself that what could Vyasa possibly write that Ganesha, a god, could not comprehend. Ganesha then agreed to Vyasa's condition and sat to write. Vyasa started dictating the poem, but whenever Vyasa ran out of material and needed some time, he would compose a verse with difficult words and complicated phrases that even the god had to take time to understand it. Thus, the great story of Mahabharata that we know today took place with this wonderful collaboration. And this, everyone, happened in the divine state of Odisha.
Thank you, Suhani. It was like watching a movie. It was so beautifully done. There was so much of things you projected in your movie. Especially, you reminded all of us about Tulsi Munda. I remember in my childhood when we were in school, my sister used to tag this Tulsi Munda name to everyone who would do a self-sacrificing job. We could never forget such a personality. Thanks for reminding us. And you projected in your movie such a thing, such information, even we could smell the earth of the land. That was so nicely done. Thank you, Suhani. Thank you for this wonderful job. Our next speaker is Shakya Simha Das from Ghaziabad. He's again a student of class 11 from DAV Public School. He likes to play keyboard. It seems we have got a lot of good musicians over here. So let us move on to Shakya Simha to see what he has brought to us from Odisha.
Good evening, everybody. I am Shakya Simha Das. Now I am going to present an important video in some important places of Odisha, such as Simlipal in Mayurbhanj district, Chandipur in Balasore district, and some temples in Bhadrak. And I requested Surilina ma'am to please share my video, and I hope you will enjoy.
Okay, sure. I'll just do it.
Listen to the call of wilderness and natural beauty in Simlipal National Park in the Mayurbhanj district of Odisha. It covers an area of 2,750 square kilometer. Simlipal is named after red silk cotton trees called samuli trees, which are found richly in the region. Simlipal National Park is a tiger reserve. The park is home to Bengal tiger, Asian elephant, gaur, deer, wild boar, chausingha, and many other animals. Lulung is a tourist destination and entrance to Simlipal National Park. It's a good picnic spot, especially in winters. It is home to many endangered and endemic species. The park is covered with a huge variety of plants, which provide a romantic charm to the mind. Look at the magnificent Barahi Pani. It is a two-tiered waterfall and is the second highest waterfall in India. The Barahi Pani and other smaller waterfalls, as well as majestic natural beauty, enchant and leave one spellbound. Welcome to the absolute calmness, the magical and golden sun-kissed sea beach at Chandipur in the Balasore district of Odisha. The beach is located on the shore of Bay of Bengal and is approximately 16 kilometers from the Balasore railway station. Chandipur is a beach like no other beaches. During low tides, the beach recedes up to 5 km so as to offer visitors the opportunity to walk on the seabed. It is home to endangered horseshoe crabs, starfish and sea urchins. Chandipur is also the location of the Indian Strategic Forces Command's Integrated Test Range (ITR) at Abdul Kalam Island, formerly known as Wheeler Island. A number of Indian missiles have been tested and launched from the ITR, including nuclear-capable Prithvi, Agni and Shaurya ballistic missiles, as well as Akash and Barak 8 surface-to-air missiles. Bhadrak is a very ancient land in Odisha. It was at the forefront during the period of national struggle. In 1920, Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement was launched, and in March 1921, he visited Bhadrak. Bhadrak is the birthplace of many freedom fighters and poets, including Dr. Hare Krishna Mehtab, Chakradhar Behra, Maulavi Muhammad Hanif, Kanta Kavi Lakshmi Kanta Mohapatra, Mr. Nilamani Rautre, and so on. Bhadrak is famous for many tourist places. For example, Sri Radha Madan Mohan Temple is one of the popular tourist attractions in Bhadrak. This is widely visited by thousands of devotees. The importance of this temple is that there are more than 500 old clothes of Sri Chaitanya present here. On the bank of river Baitarni, the Akhandal Mani temple at Aradi is abode of Lord Shiva. According to legend, around 350 years ago, during the rule of Raja Shri Niladri Samara Singha Mohapatra, one early morning, the Raja sent a peasant to cultivate his paddy field on the bank of the river Baitarni. While cultivating, the blade of his plough was broken by hitting with some hard material. The peasant was astonished and found a black glazed granite stone full of blood flowing towards the river Baitarni. The peasant ran to call king and he hurriedly came to the spot. Finding a flood of milk in place of blood and huge black cobra holding the stone. That night the king had a dream regarding the arrival of the god Akhandal Mani on that place. The next day, King Niladri Samara Singha Mohapatra started worshipping the god and immediately built a wooden temple on the spot. A large number of devotees from different villages started visiting and worshipping the great god. Many fairs and festivals are organized there. The chief among those is the Mahashivratri.
Thank you, Satyasima, for this wonderful video. The video quality was so good. It was such a nice video. It was like a very nice documentary film. The voice quality, the audio, everything was so perfect. Thanks for taking us through such a wonderful thing. It was really, really nice. So, moving on, we are coming to the last presenter, Adyasha Jaina from Ghaziabad. She is again a student of 11th class from Delhi Public School, Vasundhara, Ghaziabad. I know her personally. She's a beautiful singer and she is very good at playing guitar. She has performed in many shows. So let us hear out what Adyasha brings us in this search of Odisha.
Thank you. So I'll begin. What's the first thing that comes to our mind when we think of Odisha? It's the rich culture, food, the beautiful temples and archaeological sites. But what makes Odisha distinct are the people. Odisha is a land of art, culture and values. The people of Odisha are friendly, kind-hearted and humble. The spiritual connection of the people with our state is what makes Odisha unique. Good evening. I'm Adyasha Jaina and I'm going to present about two beautifully and culturally diverse cities of Odisha, Gopalpur and Berhampur. Gopalpur. Gopalpur is a coastal town and a notified area council in Ganjam district in Odisha on the Bay of Bengal coast. It is now a commercial port, a famous sea beach and a popular tourist destination. Historical significance. Once a small fishing village on the coast of Odisha, Gopalpur was named after Lord Krishna when a temple dedicated to the Hindu god was constructed in the 18th century. Trade with Burma had increased and Gopalpur had become a trading point for rice from Rangoon. So, the East India Company built massive warehouses and godowns. In those days, there were dances and parties that continued until the early hours, and wealthy Bengalis from Calcutta made it their holiday home. When trade with Burma abruptly ended during the war and never resumed, Gopalpur's prominence decreased. When the British departed India, even wealthy Bengali families opted to vacation elsewhere and Gopalpur reverted to its natural state as a fishing village. The best time to visit. Due to cooler climates, lower levels of moisture and greater tourist activities to enjoy, the 4-month period from November till February is the best time to visit Gopalpur. During this time, the beach, the water and the landscape in Gopalpur are just stunning. The day temperature hover around 25 degrees Celsius, while nights can be a lot cooler at 18 degrees Celsius. You can enjoy the beach in a comfortable clothing while soaking in the warmth of the sun. Beautiful places in Gopalpur. Gopalpur Beach. It is a beautiful beach in Odisha located on the east coast of the Bay of Bengal. It is popularly known as one of the few places in India where olive ridley turtles lay their eggs. It's surrounded by coconut and casuarina plantations and makes for a relaxing weekend getaway. The beach, also known as Gopalpuram Sea, is noted for its quiet and relaxing atmosphere. It is popular for holding the annual Gopalpur Beach Festival and for providing opportunities to participate in a variety of water sports. The Gopalpur Lighthouse. On the shore in Gopalpur, there is an ancient lighthouse that is maintained by the Odisha Tourist Department. The lighthouse provides a 360 view of Gopalpur, the beach, and some parts of Chilika Lake. The lighthouse is an amazing place to capture some beautiful photographs of Gopalpur and its beach. Dhabaleshwar Island. It is located in the river Mahanadi around 15 kilometers away from Gopalpur. The island is covered in coconut trees and wide stretches of beautiful shorelines, along with a Shiva temple situated on hilltop that witnesses visits from a lot of devotees. A museum situated near the temple has exhibits dating back to the 12th century. The Dhabaleshwar Temple. It is a temple dedicated to the worship of Hindu god Lord Shiva. Dhabala meaning white and Ishwar meaning God. The name derives from a story which signifies a miracle performed by Lord Shiva. Once, a thief stole a black bull calf from a village and fled to Shiva temple. He hid himself with the calf in the sanctum while the angry crowd waited outside the temple. The crowd could clearly hear the calf calling out. The thief paid fervently to Lord Shiva to deliver him from the crowd. Taking pity on him, the Lord appeared as a sannyasi before the crowd and asked them the cause of their agitation. On being told that they suspected the thief of hiding in the sanctum along with the black calf, the sannyasi brought the calf outside to dispel their doubts. The calf turned out to be white, seeing which the crowd let the thief go. The sannyasi disappeared and the thief realized who he had come to his aid. He confessed and apologized to the crowd. He took a vow to spend the rest of his life in the service of the Lord. This act of turning a black calf to white caused Lord Shiva to be known as Dhabaleshwar. Gopalpur Beach Festival. The Gopalpur Beach Festival draws huge crowds each year and is one of the foremost reasons why people visit the destination. The festival is a celebration of the vibrant and colorful culture of Odisha. Started in the year 1996 by the Ganjam District Hotel Association to promote tourism and culture among the locals, the Gopalpur Beach Festival has been a massive success in putting the tiny city of Gopalpur back on the map. The festival is usually held in December and is an absolute treat for all. The celebration of this festival is a huge deal, with renowned celebrities performing live concerts and dancing to peppy beats. The locals, as well as people from other cities, entertain the crowd with a feast of folk, classical and modern dances. Some fun activities to do in Gopalpur. Shopping. Some stalls set art that celebrates the Odia culture and is made by local artists. Many vendors sell colorful and unique jewelry made of stone, clay or wax. If you wish, they can make you bangles or necklaces of your size right in front of you. They also sell small and carefully sculpted idols of Ganesha, Shiva and Sai Baba. Handmade dolls and toys are also available for sale for the children. Camel rides. You can opt to take a long stroll along the beach alone, or you can get a camel to accompany you. Camel rides along the Gopalpur beach are a local favorite and are exciting. Two people can sit on the camel at one time, and the ride lasts for about 10 to 15 minutes. Cuisine. Gopalpur's proximity to the sea makes the seafood available here an absolute delight. In fact, the city is renowned for its fried fish, prawns, crabs, and pomfrets. Many stalls are set up The name of the city is said to have been derived from the name of Lord Brahmeshwara, worshipped in a temple at Lathi, 4 kilometers from the main town. Beautiful places around Berhampur. The Ramlingeshwar Park. It is a reservoir situated in the center of Berhampur. It is a beautiful spot for sightseeing. The park has a huge statue being built to add beauty to the place. Ma Buddhi Thakurani Temple. One of the highly revered religious sites in Berhampur, Ma Buddhi Thakurani Temple, is located near the Big Bazaar area. The presiding deity of the temple is mainly worshipped by Weaver community Dera. From its early days, the temple is worshipped by both low-caste people and the mainstream Hindus, and thus it provides a strong association between both the communities. Apart from the religious significance, the temple is very much famous for hosting one of the biggest festivals of southern Odisha, Thakurani Yatra. This month-long celebration is observed after every 2 years in the Hindu month of Chaitra. As per the historians, the celebration of this beautiful festival starts from the day of Mahashivratri. It is organized by the hereditary head of the festival. This festival not only witnesses local devotees, but it witnesses devotees from neighboring districts and cities as well. The Biju Patnaik Park. This park is dedicated to Sri Viju Patnaik. It is beautiful garden spread over a huge area of 7 acres land. It's one of the most beautiful sites of the city, with a musical fountain and a flower garden. A pavement goes around the park with manually trimmed and shaped plants on both sides. A boating amusement park is built for children inside the park. Localities visit the park often in the evening to have a relaxing time amidst beautiful flowers and plants. The best time to visit Berhampur. The time between October to June is the best time to visit Berhampur. The weather is quite pleasant during this time, and also the maximum numbers of festivals are celebrated around this month. What makes Berhampur unique? Berhampur is known for its silk saris and a delicious combination of Eastern and South Indian tradition, making it a foodie's heaven. However, the city has much more to offer than just these highlights. The unique cuisine, Achar Papar and Badi. Berhampur's Achar Papar and Badi showcase the unique speciality, making them rule the whole nation with their taste. These three give away such a wonderful flavor to the mouth that it is liked by the folks of Odisha at any and every point of time. What makes this traditional cuisine even more rich is the fact that it is prepared from local ingredients by the local inhabitants themselves. The Puri and Upma combination. The staple food of the people of Berhampur is the combination of freshly prepared puri along with the added flavors of upma served alongside. Along with these two, a tangy tasting curry is also served to match the levels and create a heavenly zest in one's taste buds. The silk. Since ages, Berhampuri saris are a big hit, and the reason the city is named as the Silk City is because of its intricately designed silk saris and the hand-loomed cloth. The best thing the shop here is the famous Berhampuri Patta saris that are gracefully designed by the expert weavers of the city. Apart from this particular variant, one can also buy the wonderful hand-woven khadi silk saris. The intricate work these weavers put in while crafting this sari is truly amazing. The Thakurani Yatra. This noted festival of the city takes place in honor of the region's presiding deity, Ma Buddhi Thakurani. Considered as one of the major festivals in the city, it takes place once in 2 years. During this yatra, the whole city is thrilled with activities leading to welcoming goddess Buddhi Thakurani into a temporary abode at late night. Giant images of different gods and goddesses along with mythic figures displayed in the several decorated chariots amidst the other lively activities are the other attraction of this festival. Thank you.
Thank you, Adyasha. It was more like a, the videos that are made for advertisement of a location for tourists, attracting tourists and all. You really did it. You hit that. It was so nice of you to, do such an extensive research and presenting it before us. This was really nice. There was some technical glitch for which we could not record few of the portions, but never mind, we have all the videos. So what we'll do is we will connect all the videos and make the link work. And except Ronak, everybody's video is available. So I will do something with Ronak just to capture his portion as well, so that we'll be ready for YouTube very soon. So coming to the closer of this session, I think it was amazing. It was at least better than technically from last session, at least less of technical glitches there. We could hear out everybody clearly. We could go through every video, every PPT perfectly. And thanks to all the presenters. You did an amazing job. And if I could see Sanjeev, you're there. I would like you to take us through the Thanksgiving.
Can you hear me?
And say
okay.
Some few words.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yes,
and
yes.
really great round of applause to all the young speakers. They have really done a wonderful job in terms of, just making this world know about the lesser known facts. And they have just really done an in-depth analysis and the research on this. So for that, I really congratulate them and my all the best wishes. And it was a Vijay Lakshmi both. You have done all the efforts to bring it to the great success. With this, we are coming to the closure of the second and the final session for the on 3rd of October and 10th of October. And we are planning many more events for days and months to come. So this is the beginning, and we'll come with a lot of surprises and a lot of things in years to come or months to come. With this, I thank you all for participating for today's webinar, and looking forward to join you again in coming months. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us.